Hello, Michael, the Mercedes guy again, and we're working on a gorgeous 116 bodied car that has intermittent heater AC blower. What happens is when the brushes get worn down so much they just can't come out of the brush holders any further, and the blower will work sometimes it won't. So, first thing you do is disconnect that battery negative cable. Anytime you're messing under the dash in the engine compartment, be safe. Disconnect the battery. So we're going to pull off this under dash panel. Once you get the screws out, you have to fiddle a bit and this comes off. Notice this one clip. There's another clip right here that has popped out of the panel. So we'll put it back in the panel before we reinstall. Now we've got to pull off the secondary cover. And don't forget the one hidden screw right in here. It's a little bit hard to spot. And there's that baby right there. Get that out of our way. Now that we have that panel off, we have to pull off this tube. It's not necessary to pull it off of the vent end, just off of the heater box. Then we've got this air tube here, the small one. That comes off. And now we have access to the heater motor. And it's 8mm socket to do this job. Now, you can use a ratchet on this bottom bolt, but the other two bolts are, it's very hard to use a ratchet. So what you want is a ratchet end wrench. This makes life easier. Okay. On the 116 cars, life's a lot easier if you pull the glove box liner out. Now the way it comes out, I've made this special little tool here out of a putty knife, and you pop it under, and then it pulls out. Take a look at how these are made. Two parts. When this is in, it expands the fingers and it won't come out unless you pull it out that far, then it comes out. Okay, we got that glove box out. And by the way, before you pull the glove box, you want to disconnect your glove box light. And then we can get to the last 8mm headed screw much easier here. Okay, I've got the other two bolts out holding the heater fan. But this one keeps turning and it doesn't come loose, which means the captured nut on the backside is turning. So we're going to have to drill this sucker out. Fortunately, we can access it with the glove box out. If it was this one over on this side, it requires removing the entire dash. So actually, this is a lucky day for us. So I have got the drill bit set up here. I'm going to first do my best to put a center punch right in the middle of that head. Now you got to be careful doing this because, as you can see, there isn't much support. So you don't use a big hammer. Okay. Let's get this. Now, the problem you'll run into is that the drill bit is turning the bolt head, so you aren't getting anywhere. So you want to use a pair of slender vice grips, and mind you, if you have good tools, it makes a job so much easier. So I have genuine vice grip. They hold the patent on a few things regarding this tool. A cheaper tool, you'll just fight with it. So once I've drilled through there, bend that a bit and break the head of the bolt off. And now we can pull that heater out of there, heater fan I should say, out of there. Okay, now on the back side I can feel a plastic lip that is not going to permit installing my clip nut. So I'm going to take that lip off. By using a hacksaw blade. So I'm using a hacksaw blade here, and fortunately it's plastic, so it's going to come off of there pretty easy. And we're going to give this clip just a little bit of better bite by bending it slightly and install it. Okay, now I have already previously tested in the vise the fastener I need, so that will take care of that problem. Okay, I pulled from the shelf, and by the way, I've got almost every part imaginable for these cars, 1960 to up to 2000. Anyway, to hold this, when you're testing it, you want to use a pair of vice grips. These things are deadly when that thing's spinning around, and not only can you hurt yourself, but you can break one of these vanes off. So, a pair of vice grips on there real solid when you do your test. Have your helper hold the vice grips while you hook up the electrical connections. Doing it by yourself is very tricky. So if you got to do it by yourself, use your remote starter switch, hook up the leads with another lead to the battery, then you can actually hold it yourself and test. Now for the next step, I'm using a tap to clean up the threads on the other two captured nuts so that we don't have another problem like this. Now, with the glove box out, with a little bit of finesse of wiggling carefully, you can pull this tube off and get it out of your way. Then, I've removed the cross pin of this tap holder so that I can just turn it by hand. And I'm going to do each one of those. We're going to squirt just a little bit of oil in there. And by hand, clean those threads up. And if you don't have a set of metric taps, you should buy some. They're very handy and come in use probably every day. I use a tap, or for the bolts, a die. Okay, I've got it all back together, which is just the opposite of the disassembly. I did test the heater fan immediately upon installation with the dash apart. Now we're doing a second test, and wow, we got air.